That's like a soldier coming back from war and having to re-enlist. Like that, to me, that is an emotional roller coaster that no one should be strapped to.
We bought you, so goodbye.
I think when you read this question out, I heard the Beach Boys song in my head. Wouldn't it be nice, you know?
Larry, love it or hate it?
No, absolutely hate it.
All right, let's get started today. We're going to talk about mergers and acquisitions. And what do you guys think is the most misunderstood part after the deal closes?
I think it's everybody thinks everything will change, but most of the time when they're buying a company, unless it's distressed, it's about the performance of that company. And if they go in and they change everything and they do it quickly, most likely they're going to destroy the performance of that company, and the change curve, that valley of despair, is going to last a lot longer than it needs to.
Valley of despair is a really good way to describe that.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure I was trained on it at least 5 times, but yeah, that whole change curve where, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Oh, I'm as good as I was before, and now I'm better. That part of I don't want to do this can last a long time if you don't have the right messaging up front. So the misunderstood is everybody lives in that fear of it's all going to change and I'm going to get fired, which can happen, but it's not necessarily the norm.
Not necessarily. Absolutely. Larry, what do you think about this?
I'm going to go from the tech side. So I think people don't really realize what's coming ahead for the merging of 2 networks. So I think, that is probably one of the overlooked things. It's like that everybody knows it has to happen, but doesn't understand the complexity involved. I came across a really funny quote while I was doing some research on this, and it said, everybody thinks merging is like merging 2 households. Everybody focuses on redecorating. Nobody cares about the sink until the plumbing explodes. So I think, the network is the sink. So
Ooh, yeah, I see. That's a fantastic analogy.
I thought it was a good one.
In my history, when we would get other divisions or new companies, it could take years actually to merge the networks together. They tended to start at the high end and then go down and try to evaluate what's the impact going to be, how much does it cost. It was always a business decision, but it could take years because they can be operated so differently, very differently.
Rick, what do you think about this? The most misunderstood part after the deal closes.
I would say, especially in the case where maybe your smaller business gets purchased by a national provider, because they do it so often, I think there's an expectation that there is a really well thought out plan for all aspects. And at least speaking from my experience, there's more of to curb a recent term, maybe a concept of a plan, right?
Concept.
Rather than an actual plan. And, that can be unnerving. And actually, a lot of the time, the details of the plan can come down to the expertise, which makes sense. Well, who has expertise in the network that you're integrating? It's those that built it. So I would say be prepared that you may need to be the expert in the room, and I would say put your most kind of knowledge people closest to the problem solving and encourage them to be bold, because there may not be someone else in the room that can pick up the slack.
Well, let's carry that forward a little bit. What do you think teams typically get wrong? Not just the organization, but individual teams get wrong post-close.
Not taking ownership. Again, I think that a lot of the time, because you don't have these relationships formed and you have these different factions of people, it's really easy to kind of assume that the other ones have it covered. Even if you're communicating, I think you have to really build that understanding of who owns what.
Yeah, and to me that ties back to transparency. There are professional emotional wounds post-merger, post-merger. Post-merger.
Merger.
Only mergers in the building. It's fine. I will say it properly. But people are hurt by the change. They weren't aware that something was happening.
Oh, sure.
And they go to work one day, they work for one company, they show up for work the next day, they work for another company, and because they felt like there wasn't transparency in that transition, they don't want to be transparent post transition. And it's so important to try and get to a place of true transparency and understanding, especially when you're bringing teams together. so that everybody knows what they're doing.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Larry? What's the first thing that teams usually get wrong?
I think not understanding who the expert is, and because you don't know, you've just merged two teams, and now you don't have any knowledge of the other team, and so you have to really, and you start to need to learn to build that trust, and you need to understand the network that you're coming into, the network you're bringing on. So I think it's just finding who the expert is and who can take ownership of each of the processes as it goes on, and that's a hard thing because, like you said, sometimes people are caught completely off guard when this happens.
And some
In my
decisions are
instance,
made,
none of my employees knew it was happening until the day it happened.
Under communication, I think,
Except for
is the
one.
thing.
I had to have one employee who had to.
Silence is important for the process. You have to maintain, because the deal's not done until the deal is done.
Right.
Yep.
So you
Exactly.
have to keep that cone of silence, but then you have to recover from that feeling. It's human nature
Right.
to feel left
On the outside.
on the outside.
Yep.
Yeah, it's absolutely human nature. What do you think, Paul?
Properly addressing the fear, which comes from everything you guys are saying. You have that fear of, oh, am I redundant? What I was talking about. And then it also creates this weird sense. I don't know if it's weird, but a sense of competition. So when you're trying to create connections between the people, you end up struggling with that, because now I feel like I have to fight for my survival. When if you had handled that fear and really understood it, people can work towards the same goal, right? I've always been a people first leader. So if you focused on the people first, you can address that fear, and hopefully healthy competition is good. But I don't know, when it's from a place of fear, it tends to destroy things.
Is
Right.
part of that territorialism as well?
True that. So true. Excuse me. I don't know.
True that.
True that, Rick.
It's so true. I've built this network. It's my network. And now you're coming in. I'm going to be honest. Those are probably the ones that go.
Yeah.
And then you lose that
You
expertise.
know that Disney movie, mine.
Yeah.
Mine.
There's always that territorial fight, but the victor's always the person that bought, right? If you bought it, you're going to set the tone. You're going to make it happen. And it doesn't really, I'm telling you, it doesn't really matter. We may stumble, but in the end, we'll get it where we need it.
It's true. Don't goad yourself into thinking otherwise.
Right.
Fear's got to be real, though. I
Oh,
mean,
it is.
you understand that we have 6 network engineers now, where we had 3 before. We're not probably going to need 6 when we're done merging. So I don't think the fear is unfounded by any
Found it.
front.
And I've been on both sides of the table on this. I've been a part of a couple of companies that were acquired, and I've been a part of a company that acquired somebody else. And it's a different position to be in, and it depends on where you are in the organizational structure too. Sometimes you're leading a company through a process that, at the end of the day, you're going to be the odd man out.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you're not taking care of the rest of your staff either. It's an interesting.
It is an interesting time, that's for sure.
Or you're responsible for a project where you're replacing what was the incumbent solution with the other company's solution, and that's your main task. Well, what do people expect is going to happen to them once they complete that task, right? You walk yourself out the door. That may not be the case, but if there isn't intentional communication to say what happens after the technology migration, then people are going to fill in the blanks for themselves.
So that actually leads to my next question is, do you guys think that it's better to integrate slowly or quickly?
Are we talking technology?
You know what?
Are we talking
The
everything?
question is wide open,
Okay.
because I think you're talking integrating
People.
departments. I think you're talking integrating technology. I think you're talking integrating systems, because there's so much diversity in how people are building out their ISPs.
Well, what I think of right away, you had mentioned, Paul, about things dragging out for years, and I just sort of winced when you said that.
Technology wise.
Yes, if I had my druthers on the technology side, I think it is integrate as fast as you can.
I disagree.
Okay.
You end up losing a lot of customers.
Well, as fast as you can while pulling it off.
Yeah.
But I think if you're allowing yourself to just have an indefinite, timeline on these things, I don't think that is for the best. Now, some things you may not be replacing, but those you would deal with differently. But from a network side, I do think that you should have a plan. You should stick to it.
So, right. I mean, I'm kind of along with you, but I say I disagree because I don't think velocity is the right question there. I mean, you need to do it right because when you mess up your network integration,
I agree, but that wasn't the question.
well, no, see, I changed the question. I just said velocity is not
You can
the
do that?
Well, I just did that. I'm like, velocity shouldn't have been the question here. It's really you need to do it right, and so we
You're
both agree
absolutely
on that.
correct. Yes, of course.
So I didn't pick a faster. Well, I just made my own question because that was easier to answer for me.
So 2 lies and a truth.
Yeah, 2 lies and the truth. Yes, that's my own game.
I see how this works.
So how do you keep customers from feeling the chaos, whether you go fast or slow?
Communication. You need to be communicating all of the time during this transition because customers are going to feel it. They're going to be afraid of what's happening. There's the unknown. You know, we all have the fear of the unknown, and that really is what happens during this.
It's nuance.
So
it can be everything from the line on their bank account that says this is where the money is going to.
Right.
If that changes, the name changes. Your customers are going to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I used to pay $79.95 to so and so, and now all of a sudden I'm showing a name I've never heard about." The branding on your customer portal, the logos on your invoices, all of those things. Give them some expectation and some transition time to get used to it.
They call the same phone number they've been calling for the last 10 years, and there's a different recording. They may think they called the wrong number. I mean,
Right.
The one thing about communication, and this is true for all facets, but I think it absolutely applies here as well. So the thing about really communication with anything, but I think it absolutely applies here as well, is when you feel like you're driving everyone crazy and you feel like you couldn't possibly communicate more, generally that's when you're just starting to get the point across and you're just starting to have everyone know. So I think that you really have to keep that in mind, especially when you're communicating to your customer base. You feel like, oh, I've told them 10 different things in 10 different ways. Yeah, probably not. And I think the big risk is kind of like Larry was saying, any gap you leave, you're leaving that for people to fill in the blanks for themselves. And that easily, especially of course in the age of the internet, can lead to like wild rumors and doomsday theories and conspiracy theories about what's happening. And I think that is a huge concern when you are a community play and someone who's been embraced by the community. People take it personally, and you want to preempt any of those theories and try and put people at ease.
Right. You can't over communicate during this process, I don't think.
Well, to me, it's almost a sales cycle again. You're reselling the new brand to the customers, and it takes 7 touches.
100%.
Right.
It takes multiple facets of your Instagram, your Facebook, your branding, your actual targeted email messages, or even, oh Lord, printing out letters and putting them in the mail to your customers to say, "This is who we are now."
One of the few times we actually sent out postal mail was for this because we wanted to make sure that everybody was getting this communication.
That has to be the objective.
Yeah.
And postcards can be a great tool for that. Absolutely.
Right.
Paul, you were talking about the nuances of keeping the customers.
Well, it's about planning a lot as well. And I think when I've been through these, the plan started well before the close, right? And being a part of large companies, they brought in some really talented people from consulting firms, big accounting firms. And they were invaluable to me as a resource because of their experience.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's a big buying a small, it can be that way, but you got to be willing to spend the money and do it right. When we were talking about communication to the customer, there's a lot of communication, and you focus on the positive that comes from the change, right? So if they had a network and maybe their bandwidth was lower than the standard bandwidth that you do, you just got an upgrade, right? And we're not charging you anymore.
Yep.
Oh, now we have 24/7 if you bought a really small one, a small ISP. We're 24/7. We've got people to help you. And depending on the company, we're local, we're not local, that can be however you spin it. But it always seemed to work best if you came in with the right messaging about the positive change. And this goes for employees as well. Again, it depends on the level you're at in a company. So if you're at a higher level, most likely they've negotiated, you're going to stay, help manage through the transition, and then, you'll
move on.
There's a plan, right? And then when you get down to the lower level, that's where that gets more difficult, because you want to be honest, but you don't necessarily know yet until you've got
Very true.
feedback from everybody, and you want to make the right decision that's right for the company, the employee, and the customer. And the nuances can be, it's so situation specific. It really is. So to try to say it's black or white or whatever, it's
not.
It's not. It never is.
There is no what to expect when you're acquiring.
What to expect when you're expecting, exactly.
Yeah,
There's no checklist that you can just hand out to everybody, and this is how it's going to work. Right.
Because it's people, and it's messy, and it's people on the inside your organization, outside of your organization.
Consistency in message is key, right? If someone's saying a different thing over here and then to this person over here, that's where that gap happens, and it gets filled with who knows whatever is on that person's mind. And as the internet grew, it's conspiratorial.
It's the rumor mill.
And then conspiracies on the internet?
It's huge. Yeah, that's always a problem. But the right leaders tended to make sure the right message was out at the right time. So this even happened. It doesn't even have to be an acquisition. The same thing can happen in our company, where it'd be, you have this operating unit and you have this operating unit. And now through efficiency, or whoever the new leader is, will start the circle again. We'll do better if we bring these things together, and we'll get efficiency. And then you have to do the same things. It's about messaging, making sure you can do right by the employee.
So you're talking internal merger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a giant company, that's a lot. It happens all the time. And,
Right.
and it's always driven by who's in charge. It's always driven by,
True.
I can now make a change and get these results. And I've seen it. It's a circle. Oh, it'd be better if we were centralized. It'd be better if we were distributed. It'd be better if we were centralized. It'd be better if we were distributed, over and over and over again. And the truth is, either of them can work. And I always felt like the leaders were doing that, the ones that came in, so they could make themselves look better in that situation, because I have to make a change. That's why they brought me.
You can take credit for a change. Taking credit for keeping things the same is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, we have to change. But when you're there long enough, you go, oh, we're going to do this again? Okay, let's go.
Let's go. Buckle up. Let's do this.
You go get the costume out from when you put it away last time. You're like, yeah.
One last point. I think you need to be proactive with your customer. Reach out to them and see how they're feeling about this. Don't just wait to hear how they're feeling about it.
It's a great point. Ask.
That was important to at least get the pulse of what customers were thinking, not just because we all can imagine in our heads, and it's worse than, so reach out to them, ask them what do they feel about that.
We always assume the worst, but what's the best that can happen? And getting feedback from your customers is so important in that loop.
I'll tell you, it's especially the big customers, because you can have customers that are paying you millions a year, right? Depending on the size of your company. You don't want to surprise them. So you've got to make sure you're maintaining that relationship without compromising the deal, right? Because you don't want it to happen. It changes your contract. You've got a new person. It should keep going. But if they're thinking, I'm going to leave and go somewhere else, they may not even tell you. And then a year later, they're gone.
Right.
So you definitely need to talk to the right customers. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed. So what's one thing you wish more companies considered or did differently post-acquisition, post-merge?
I think slow rolling the brand change is worth considering. I mean, there's a number of factors I think that should come into play. This should absolutely be strategic, but I don't think, even if there is a playbook from the acquiring company, I think that you should look at it situationally. There are different aspects that could feed into that decision. Obviously there's the technology factor. You need a plan for that. You need to execute it. It needs to be done successfully to minimize downtime and all that good stuff. The internal team messiness that we were talking about, that's inescapable, that's unavoidable. I think if you maybe defer some of the brand chaos and the need to go into that post-sales cycle like you were describing, that could distribute the work and give you a bit more stability along the way.
And I've seen our customers do things differently. Some people rip and replace the logo as soon as the acquisition is complete. Others are like ABC Internet by XYZ Broadband.
Yeah.
And they'll merge the two, and they'll use that for 6 months, and then they'll add in. So it's a slower roll of getting that new name out into the field. Mm-hmm. And then other companies simply choose to maintain the branding of the companies that they are acquiring, and they are using 14, 15, 16 different logos for their customers with a unified customer portal. And you can just do unique things that way.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. I mean, because you've built up that name, and maybe that's a lot of value in that.
Everyone I've been through is the branding was always very fast and very quick. We are now this company, right? Your contribution, your everything is a part of this, but this is the new company. And it was always like, that's like day one. We're starting to swap things out. I would say some of the more physical pieces, like, oh, we got a giant logo on a building, that can take a lot longer. But for the most part, anything you have out there that's interacting with people, it was always very fast. And I can't say that I'm an expert on it at all, but just my observation, it tended to go better if it was fast.
Well, that's interesting.
Paul, that's a really interesting perspective about going fast. Larry, what do you have to say about that?
I think the post MA, you really need documentation internally, and you need to make sure that both teams are aware where this documentation is and what the processes are happening, so you're both
Can't
on
keep a
board.
secret playbook?
No secret playbook, but I mean, you really, the communication is so vital. We already talked about how important it is communication to the customer. It's equally as important that the teams are communicating on what is happening, when it's supposed to happen, who's in charge of making it happen. And not just through these little sit-down meetings where everybody agrees on everything, document it as much as possible. The documentation is...
It's fun that you say everyone agrees on everything. I'm thinking it's going to be a bitch fest.
Okay, I mean,
What's going on?
in the end, the big guy agrees that...
On behalf of everybody?
Yeah, agrees on behalf of everybody. Yes, right.
This is how it's going to be.
Right. We all agree, yeah.
Great. That's great perspective, though, because I do think that there's going to be a very different play for smaller operators than for bigger operators, and bigger operators want their name out there. They think that that's going to be the guiding principle, and we're talking touchy-feely. Our customers love us. Our customers appreciate our brand. We have been in the community for a long, long time.
Oh, come on. These larger ones like Comcast, it's not like everybody thinks, oh, wow, Comcast is such a great company. I really hope that I can be their customer. It was the same for Time Warner Cable. They have horrible reputations, but it's theirs, right? And they want to know that even though you may not like us or these other people may not like us, we're here. We're going to make it better for you. At least that's the messaging. But out in the real world, it's usually everybody's pissed off that Comcast is coming in, unless you're like, for me, when that kind of happened to me as a end user, I knew I was going to get more bandwidth that I wasn't going to get with the current company, right? And in my mind, that was what was important to me, right? But think about it. Do you think they're I love my cable company, right? Or I love my phone company.
Said no one ever.
Is out there, but it's no one really likes them, right? So I've never quite understood the branding. I wish I could say I could, but not so much.
It's ego by the sounds of it.
That's what it sounds like to me as well.
I think I understand it.
When two companies become one, you need systems that actually work together. Sonar gives ISPs a unified platform that simplifies M&A transitions, from billing to network operations. Learn more at sonar.software. All right, let's get back into it.
All right, let's go ahead and fire up our love it or hate it section, because I know how much y'all love it and hate it. And I'm going to throw out a few hot takes and let's see what you guys have to say about it. Number 1, the CEO should own the post M&A integration plan. And Larry, I'm going to start with you on this.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
fun.
CEO.
You're right. I was Mr. CEO, but I'm going to go with hate it, because I think in most cases you don't want the CEO running the post migration plan. Mission statements, not SQL statements. Not down the trenches.
Statements, not SQL statements. That sounds like a bumper sticker. I love it.
Maybe we could probably have that made up. But I mean, that's really, obviously you're going to be reporting back to the CEO of the progress, but they aren't the ones in the trenches doing the work and getting these things done. That isn't their focus.
Love it or hate it?
Yeah, I hate it for sure. To me, it's really simple. I frame it in a racy perspective. The CEO needs to be informed. If they're not in the room, if they don't know what's happening, then their bad things are coming for sure. They should not be responsible. You need to have that with people that are closer to actually carrying out the work, in my opinion.
Depends on the size of the company, right? If it's a smaller company, the CEO has to be involved most likely because they're wearing multiple hats. right? They're the technical expert, maybe.
Yeah, see, I just involved myself not as a CEO at that
Exactly.
point. I was,
I'm the network
my
guy.
CEO left at the merger, and I became, the
But
not CEO.
I would say that when we've bought when the company I worked for bought smaller companies, the CEO of the company if they stayed around, they were involved, right? They were helping making decisions because they were closer to that point. But the one from the bigger company, not at all. They got people to do that. They probably hired a firm to come in and help them do that.
Right.
Yeah, I do think the size of the company is important, but I think the role of the CEO in post acquisition play is important, and it could be the culture leader or the transitional culture leader, making sure that the people that have been acquired, the personnel from the acquired company, understand that there is a place at the table for them, and kind of shepherding the process, and I think that's a highly beneficial concept as you're getting those new units to form bonds.
Yeah, they've got a role, obviously, still. It's not like,
But
they're
owning
done, but
owning
owning
the
the whole
plan,
process,
yeah,
I think, that's better left to other
to the
individuals.
boots on the ground. All right, Paul, love it or hate it, merged teams should all go through the same onboarding process.
You would think I'd really have a strong opinion. It always seems like when we talk about love it or hate it, I'm like, well, it depends, right? And I feel bad, but it's always the
A lot of love-hate relationships.
So I think it's important for the acquiring company to have information about the acquired company.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what's great about them, what's great about their culture, and how we're going to be a better company as we merge together. And it goes the other way. Okay. I'm now know about the people that have acquired us and we're merging together so that you're both on an equal footing about those things. Now, when it comes to operations, it depends on what you have to do for that situation, right? Is it you're going to flip a switch and change things? No. So it's most likely going to stay the same. And then you'll have the people that have to work through, is there common ground in how we do this? Or, yeah, I would say I remember there'd be this feeling of, we're going to talk to you, but in the end, we're just going to do what we want to do, right? As the big company. So sorry. I felt that a lot when we would do these. So you definitely want to create the foundation and merge them together based on a common ground. But there's always the ego involved that we bought you and, we're going to do what we want.
So in other words, you love to hate it.
It's just weird.
All right, I'm going to go to Larry. Love it or hate it, merged teams should all go through the same onboarding.
I'm just playing my own game again. I'd say pass. No, I think they have to go through a merging of the cultures and stuff like that. So there has to be some onboarding, but do they all go through the same onboarding? No. I mean, at the department level, you start talking to the specifics of what that means.
And what
now as two groups.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What do you think, Rick? Love it or hate it?
I think when you read this question out, I heard the Beach Boys song in my head. Wouldn't it be nice? I think that
you even know the Beach Boys.
Oh, big fan.
Great. Me too.
When you hear that statement, I think it is very idealistic. I think it is unlikely that you're actually going to pull that off, but I do think that there is value in it. And you said the word that was in my head. It's for the culture benefits. It's not for the practical education. If you are able to level set on the culture, the teams are going to, speak the same language. They're going to feel, more welcomed inside. And I think that is the investment that you have. And potentially, if you're going into it with that kind of goal set, maybe it is a simpler thing to do than what I was thinking in principle. So I guess I love it.
And maybe I put the cart before the horse in the questions. My next love it or hate it is, should you re-interview everybody after an acquisition? Love it or hate it, you should interview everybody after an acquisition.
Yeah, I hate it. And again, speaking from my experience, when there was decisions, the big announcement, this is what's happening, when there were severance packages being offered and those sort of decisions were made in the early days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if that is how it's being done, and then someone goes through that whole process And then once the dust starts settling, you start re-interviewing people. That's like a soldier coming back from war and having to re-enlist. Like that, to me, that is an emotional roller coaster that no one should be strapped to.
Larry, love it or
Yeah,
hate it.
no, I absolutely hate it. You want to lose all your best talent? That's what you do is re-interview
Playbook.
them afterwards. Yeah, they're all good. Just feel this. I have to prove myself again. I've been a quality employee. You're gonna know without re-interviewing who your quality employees are. I mean, even though our M&A was, two, I guess what you'd call smaller companies coming together, you knew who the quality people were on both sides of the board, and that comes to light pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you need to go through that re-interview process, and I think it's only going to cause more stress for the employees during that transition.
So, from the larger operator perspective, love it or hate it, re-interview everyone.
Well, from a personal perspective, I absolutely hate it. I've had to do this more than I'd like to say, right? When things have changed and mergers, acquisitions, and it's exactly what you're saying. So I've been doing this for years, and I'm one of the top performers, but you're going to have me prove that I'm the right person for this job by talking to me about it for 15 minutes to an hour. No, right?
Feel good.
Look at the results, right? Let's base it off that. I do remember though, at a certain level in the company, when it's a big company, small company, it, it's it's not as a difficult thing. But when it's a big company, there's a lot of horse trading that goes on, right? You end up in these rooms, and it's very much, I don't know, the old man's network or whatever, the good old guys network, where you imagine people sit with cigars at a table trading. And it's kind of, no, this guy. This guy needs to stay. Well, why does that guy need to stay? I think it should be this guy. And then it's, well, I'll do this, you do that.
Yeah, you
all
can
right?
keep that guy if I get to keep these two guys.
It definitely goes on when it's a larger merger happening. The smaller ones, it's usually, like I said before, well, we bought you, so goodbye. We're going to do what we want.
Love it or hate it, data systems are harder to merge than people.
Well, I love it, because I've seen when you go too fast and you try to merge these systems, you break things that impact not just your employees, but your customers. And when you impact your customers, you're kind of thwarting everything you're trying to do here. So yeah, I think data systems can be a real issue. And that's why I said it can end up taking years, because some of these things have been around, if it's big enough, for decades, right? And there's a lot of information, and what do you keep? What don't you keep? How do we change it? I mean, we live this in our business right now. It's tough. And you got to make sure you're doing it in the right way so that you minimize that pain.
How far backwards do you go? IP assignments,
You got
transactions, all the data sets. Yeah, absolutely. Rick, what do you think? Love it or hate it, data systems are harder to integrate than the people.
I think I surprised myself on this one. I think I love it as well. Like really, I think the way I frame this is like when either hypothetical is at its worst, which one is just the most painful. And I think that yes, these legacy undocumented systems that maybe didn't come with a Sherpa to help you figure them out. Maybe you forgot to invite that guy along, or maybe he heard that the acquisition was happening and he gave you the one finger salute and you never saw him again.
See ya.
Yeah, I think that is quite the revenge, because yes, trying to figure that out is like solving the Da Vinci Code, and at the end of the day, you have to figure it out, and that is painful.
Larry, love it or hate it.
See, I was gonna go with love it, but I'm sitting here and I changed my view to hate it. I mean, they're complex. Data systems are really complex to merge, and it's going to be a lot of work. But people are messy, and when you start getting all these egos involved, and and if they know that they're competing for a few spots, and there's more than a few people, that starts to get ugly. And we saw some of that even in the small group that we had that we were merging. So don't get me wrong, data systems are not fun to merge, and there's a lot of complexities. You got customer ID 6 and I'm customer ID 6. Now who's 6?
Now you're 600.
Yeah, right. Now I'm
because I win.
All right, because you win. All right. So there's a lot of complexities, but I think people are equally as difficult.
I did not vote on the others, but I'm going to vote on this one, and I hate it. I'm going to tell you that I think that the people are the messiest part because the people are greatly unknown, and they can go out to social media, and they can be in the coffee shops, and they can go really make your acquisition be uncomfortable in your community, on your Google reviews, on all kinds of different things. So the data systems can be behind the green curtain and can be taken care of in-house. When you've got a number of employees that are leaving and they're leaving unhappily, they can be loud and messy. So I think it's a real difficult situation.
So when you've seen that happen, when people leave a company and they're very vocal about it, do you think it really has an impact on the company?
I think it really can in the smaller communities. I think it really can.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think in the well-established small communities, a vocal employee can have a lot of impact, to be honest.
And again, I'm no expert, but from a big company, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All you say is, yeah, we had to let that person go. And you hear it, the spin is they're disgruntled. Right.
Right.
And this was better for the community in this way. So
I think it depends on the size of the community. I think it depends on who that person is in the company.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
the
In their
small
community.
companies.
Are they sitting on the little league board? Are they, what are they doing?
You can say they're disgruntled, but people are going to get their viewpoint and then they're going to form that opinion. They're not going to just buy the disgruntled employee. Yeah.
Okay.
for the most part, every employee is replaceable.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So they're going to leave. They're going to be upset. You're going to get somebody else, or you're fixing it. It disappears over time.
The show will go on.
Exactly.
Well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it doesn't necessarily,
Doesn't change my vote.
no, but it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make it harder. It's what you deal with already when you let somebody go.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure that it makes it any harder in that situation. Kind of why I went with the data systems.
Speaking of change my vote, I'm pretty sure I've done this many times. I think I said I hate it and I meant I love it, but you got my point. Enjoying the show? Then don't miss a single episode. Head over to Spotify, search Bandwidth, and tap follow. It helps us grow the show and it keeps you in the loop every time we drop a new episode. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Oh, all right. It is time for another round of What If. And I think I'm going to start with you, Larry. What if customers start churning immediately after an acquisition?
I mean, it's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. You have to have had this plan in place day zero. You have to understand what you're going to do to respond to this. So, like I said, communication is so important. You can stop some of this churn, I think, through communications. You can stop some of this through proactively talking to your customers. In every customer that churns, you need to find out why. And then you need to figure out what we can do moving forward to prevent this, because it's going to happen. I mean, it happened. People won't like change.
You moved my cheese.
And so even if there is no real change to just the fact that there's this merger means there's change perceived by them. So find out why and what you can do to overcome it. Is it a technical thing? Did we let people go that, did we let the wrong people go? Were they so involved? Because I mean, some of our customer support people were so well known, it's like, oh, I didn't get George when I called in this time. I love dealing with George. And now I call in and I don't even hear that it's my company anymore. I hear it's XYZ and not ABC.
I like how you said the customer said my company, which makes it seem like, hey, I'm part of this, right? I doubt many people actually feel that way. Maybe in smaller communities.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I think you'd be surprised.
And local businesses, absolutely. They see that as their internet provider, my company.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I've worked with them for 10 years. I've worked with them for 15 years.
Much more a smaller community
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's definitely.
I don't think New York City is going to care.
No, probably.
Yeah. Anyway.
New York City.
No, but by us they cared. I mean, they this was my internet company, so they really have that perception. So you really just need to be very, open to listening and figuring out what to do.
Do the big guys care?
Or is it just part of the formula? Right.
They do and they don't, from what I remember. And this is I just want to say these are all my opinions, right? No one else's. But it depends on the research you've done up front. So you're going to have a plan. Are we going to keep prices the same? Are we going to communicate? We're not changing anything for whatever amount of time. People get pissed when you change your email address, especially, right? So you've got to be able to address that. You've got to be able to address if it's TV, am I changing the lineup? Does something happen with my phone service? It just depends on what is important to that customer base. So you got to do the research up front. And that's really how you're going to stop the churning. If you just go into it and go, oh, people are churning and we're going to react to it, you're going to end up losing a lot more than you want to. You're going to want to make sure you're being proactive before you get to that.
Right. You can minimize the numbers. You're not going to come to zero ever, but you can minimize them for sure.
Rick, what do you think?
What
do you do? What if?
Yeah, this definitely was not a what if. And my reaction to Paul earlier on the branding point of view, where it's just that is the first thing that changes. I think that should be considered in cases like what Larry's saying, where that this is a community where it really is, this is my company. In my experience, the situation was that a large contingent of our customer base we got from the company that acquired us. So they had a very poor reputation. And it was great
Wait, so they had been a customer of the other company, they came to you, and then the other company bought y'all.
Correct.
Okay.
So you can imagine the emotions that customer feels, right? They're going to feel betrayed. And with the branding coming in early and hot and heavy, you had to fight that fire along with the network transition, along with the staff integration, along with, and it's a lot. And I don't want to call it a mass exodus, but I think the subset of customers that really care about that kind of thing all march themselves out immediately, and that is chaos, right? Interestingly, though, I have seen a shift in that mentality. There's a company that I'm aware of in Canada that was acquired by a tier one, and they kept the branding, the local branding, indefinitely. They finally did a little sort of powered by company XYZ kind of co-branding. And I don't know if it's one of these like strategies where I don't know if you've ever seen the guy that made the Rice Krispie squares, and he added more sawdust every time until it was like, inedible. Like,
That sounds, what kind of Rice Krispies do you buy?
That's what that makes me think of. You make the logo of the tier one bigger and bigger, and eventually
the other one's gone.
Yeah, and maybe you just thought that it always tasted like crap, but yeah,
I love Rice Krispies.
I think there's something to be said. Don't let me cook for you.
Could be a role for AI here. So you could buy data about anybody from a data broker, right? All the cookies and everything that we track out there. And then you could actually create a learning, let's just call it GPT. I'm just going to call it something that now knows about every customer that you have and can scour that data and form the message for them, right? Based on where they are and whatever platform and whatever they're doing, and make sure that it's for them. And it doesn't take any specific kind of brain power or people power. It's more about, here's what we know about you, and here's what we think is important.
Like tailored on sentiment analysis.
Yeah. I think you could do that.
Oh, I think nowadays you could use that with
that
AI.
That would be powerful.
So I would notice while you guys were talking, this was me thinking about it.
I thought I heard the wheels going.
Sitting there.
I smelled something.
Oh, excuse me.
Well, he said cookies, and I was still thinking about the Rice Krispie treats. So I was like, oh, cookies. He's talking about computer cookies. Took me a second. But...
What kind of cookies were you thinking about?
Chocolate chip.
Yeah,
Great.
Mergers might get the headlines, but customer experience is what earns long-term loyalty. In the next episode, we're talking about bots, burnout, and the future of support, and how AI might change everything your team does. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You aren't going to want to miss this one.
Remember, when you connect communities, you unlock what's possible. Until next time.